Welcome, it's Rucks Balls and Oval Balls, back again with some classic rugby podcasting. And, as ever, it is me, Dave, joined by Rory, the other classic rugby podcast host. Say hello, Rory, to the listener.
Hello, listeners. Hello. Hello, David. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you, Rory. I'm very well. How are you? I know you had a busy weekend. I'm keen to find out more.
Yes, I've spent the weekend in Ireland. God,
such a gallivanter.
Yeah, little trip with the old man and the brother to go and watch Gloucester play against Munster in Cork at the new GAA stadium, as opposed to Tormund Park, which is in some ways a little bit of a disappointment that it wasn't at Tormund Park. But to make up for that, Cork, what a city!
Yeah. Any particular highlights you wish to share?
The Sinead pub, amazing. Clancy's for breakfast, amazing. Quinlan's restaurant, amazing. Several other pubs that names I didn't quite catch, but I went to and really enjoyed thoroughly. Beamish, nicer than Guinness.
Oh, wow.
Murphy's, not quite as nice as Guinness, but still nice. Guinness, nice.
So you covered the three major food groups in Ireland.
Yes, Beamish, Murphy's and Guinness.
Fantastic. And how were the fans? Did they treat you well as a visitor?
Do you know what? As they say in Ireland, they were great crack.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to stop there at great, because I was going to say they say that in other places. But yeah, the crack part.
They were brilliant. They're really just great. They're really knowledgeable. Really not just knowledgeable about Munster, but kind of the wider context of both teams, and great to talk to about the competition. They're good fun. They're good natured. Everything you kind of want from an away day experience, you got from the Munster fans. So I can't speak highly enough of them.
So what you're saying is that they should be listening into this podcast because we're knowledgeable. We're got a good view of the sport in general.
I think the biggest problem for Munster rugby fans is there's not enough of them listening to this podcast.
Well, I couldn't agree more. So, Munster fans, I'm expecting some good numbers this week, because I'm sure Rory would have been singing the praises of the podcast on his travels. And with every conversation, I'm sure he started off with, "Have you heard of Ruxmall's Over Balls?"
Went around with an Arm Mob t-shirt on and told everyone about it.
Well, I expect nothing less, Rory. My weekend, particularly less exuberant, should we say.
Oh, really?
Did some Christmassy eventing on one of the days.
Boring.
Then got unwell. So
boring.
Wasn't able to go to the Saints game in person, unfortunately.
Boring.
So, unfortunately, very boring from old Dave here.
No, Dave.
But,
You're drinking tea as well.
I am drinking tea from a Christmas mug.
At least you're festive.
I thought you were going to call me a Christmas mug there, Rory, and I would have accepted that.
I didn't say that about you, David.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Well, I think this is enough chitter-chatter about anything casual and, unexciting. I think we got some...
Let's dive into it.
So, we're going to cover a few things going on in the world of rugby at the moment. A little bit around the Prem and some of the noise that's going on there. A bit about the transfer merry-go-round that's going on as we speak. It doesn't stop spinning. We've got our own political campaign that we're going to launch. And we'll then do a roundup of the Champions Cup, trying to go through as many games as we can. We appreciate that last week we tried to go through every single fixture, and maybe some parts may have felt a little bit rushed. So we're going to be a bit more selective of our analysis for this week to see how that one lands. How does that sound, Rory? Does that sound like the way forward you wish to take?
I'm in total agreement, David. Let's dive into things.
I'm glad to hear it, because you didn't have a choice. First of all, a little bit of, I don't know if it's news or whether it's just kind of social media speculation, but there's been a couple of posts I've seen about apparently the RFU has rubber stamped the idea of Prem Rugby going down the franchise model, scrapping relegation, in aid of supporting Prem Rugby searching for investment and kind of external investors to then prop up this what would be closed off league. We've heard about it in the past. We spoke about it bits and pieces, but it feels like maybe a bit more smoke to the fire. Just wondered if there's any thoughts we wish to put to this concept that we kind of expected was on its way.
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it? I think we're just reaching the culmination of what felt like sort of an inevitable journey in some ways. To be honest, I'm now more of the opinion that this is probably the necessary end point for Prem Rugby. Or maybe not end point, but this is probably the necessary next step for Prem Rugby in terms of building a sustainable model. My gut feel is that there's no viable way to build a sustainable pyramid system in England at this moment in time.
Why is that? Is that player numbers, just lack of
investment? Lack of investment. There's not enough money in not enough teams to have a viable pyramid. And we know this because only one team in the last 30 years effectively has been able to come up from the Championship to the Premiership and not go bust. So there isn't really a good argument that promotion and relegation should be open between the Champ and the Prem at this moment in time.
Yeah,
because it's not feasible. What I would argue is this is the best next step for the Prem to become a sustainable model. So you can then build the Prem into probably a 12, 13, 14 team tournament, depending on how far they want to go with that. You then have the opportunity, either simultaneously or once you've built that, to establish the Champ into a more sustainable competition, and then expand the Prem into a 2-level franchise. So you have 2 tiers of a franchise tournament. But the trouble is, to get from where we are today to that, you probably have to start by sealing off the Prem, building that out, and then going and doing the same with the Champ. At this point, I don't think there's a viable way to have an open pyramid system all the way to top level rugby in England, which is a shame. You know, my instinct is always that you should have promotion and relegation and have that jeopardy all the way down the league.
Yeah. But
the reality is it's not really been there for a considerable period of time, and it's unlikely to get to that point in a way that will allow the current Prem to retain, financial solvency, or reach financial solvency, I should say.
And I think, so I mostly agree with what you're saying. I think the thing that I am nervous about, and I think it's the angle that is kind of overlooked by most people talking about it, is the term being used, franchises. Because that suggests the possibility of picking up and moving and shaking and doing something very different and taking clubs away from their roots. That worries me as a fan of a club. I imagine it would worry someone like yourself, Rory, who's a fan of a club in quite a congested part of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely hear that. And there is a definite concern with that. I mean, anyone who's got a bit of knowledge around the history of the NFL will know of the numerous examples of franchises that have been picked up and moved, and in some occasions, it's a devastating effect to the town. If anyone knows about the Indianapolis Colts, were previously the Baltimore Colts, and left Baltimore without a team for several years. There was a massive grassroots campaign to bring an NFL franchise back there because it left the town so kind of bereft. And we don't want to see that in rugby. What my counter to that would be, at least in the short, medium, and probably most of the long term, I don't see that being a problem, because where I think the term franchise league is being used in this is more in an example of how they want to expand the league.
Okay.
So my gut feel would be there's more chance that they will look to expand a franchise league into areas where there currently isn't coverage. So Yorkshire would be a good example. Actually, the southeast rather than
what you're saying
the west
is,
or north of London.
It leaves the door open for them 5 years down the line saying, we're going to introduce a new franchise into the league called the Wasps, for example, and they're going to be based in the southeast of the country. Well,
we know Wasps have got plans to build a stadium in Kent, right? Which is very much an area where, actually, although there are teams in Quins and Saracens, because I live in Essex, I've got a little bit of experience of this. It's actually a pain in the arse to get to the Stoop, and it's even more of a pain in the arse to get to the Stone X from the southeast. And there's a lot of rugby fans this side of London, who would definitely fill. I'm almost certain that franchise would fill out a stadium successfully. I also think there's a good opportunity and an appetite to put a franchise in Yorkshire. I think there's enough. I think there is definitely enough appetite there. I would argue Coventry, arguably Coventry and Birmingham, but certainly Coventry's got more of a rugby history, would be an area that's missed. You could argue that might be filled by Worcester, but I'm not certain of that. But certainly there's two big population centres there that aren't being serviced.
Yeah.
You've got the Northwest is probably catered for by Sale, although I would argue in that franchise model, if you were to pick up Sale and move them somewhere else within the Manchester area, where there's a better spot for a stadium that's more central, more
maybe not an industrial estate.
Maybe not an industrial estate underneath a motorway.
Yeah.
Like a flyover. So from that point of view, I think there's always going to be pros and cons to any model. You know, we're seeing the cons to the current model now, right? There's just no financial solvency. So
but I also think this noise is coming off of the back of the good noise that is coming out of Prem Rugby at the moment. That it is probably turning a corner. It is becoming interesting to investors. It seems like they're looking at American investors, which doesn't exactly fill me with lots of hope. But
honestly, everyone is. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, and that's not just sport.
No,
everyone is looking at look at US Middle Eastern investors at this point in time.
Look at Premiership football. Most of the clubs are owned by American.
That's because that's where the sports audience is at the moment.
Yeah,
so that's why they're looking at that.
2031 Rugby World Cup, there may be interest there to try and do something. So I wonder when we hear the next step in this, because it feels like whether this was like a little leak to just test the waters to see what people say.
Well, I think there's a reason why they've leaked this, because whilst this has been rubber stamped by RFU's senior leadership, by the sounds of things, it still has to pass that noblest of organisations, the RFU Council. Because, of course, for rugby in this country, in order for us to organise top-level professional rugby in a way that we think is financially solvent, we 100% need to get the opinion of Dave from Eastern Counties with his gravy-splattered tie, who wants to have ambitions of bringing, little Tidsbury up to the Prem one day if they just get the right investors in.
Yeah.
The ludicrous situation we find ourselves in, where Prem Rugby is now at the behest of a council of rank amateurs in their blazers and ties.
Yeah.
Discussing that for a jolly on a Saturday afternoon.
No offence to the good people of Little Tidsbury, but it is a problem, and we have spoken about this at length in previous episodes of this podcast.
I am flummoxed by this one. I can't believe that we're now. I think the reason they've leaked this is to put pressure on the council.
Yeah, I think you might be right, and it's interesting that I think, say 2-3 years ago, I think the noise around this would have been mostly against. You look at some of the underlines and some of these things, and most people seem to kind of get it now, I think. So whether people are just coming to terms with actually what the reality is of Prem Rugby, I think they're seeing that like there has been a corner turned, but I think they're realising maybe there's only so far that corner can turn without anything major.
What we haven't had, really, what the Prem and the RFU have to set out is a longer term vision for this, and not one that is just we're making money and England win the World Cup. Obviously, that's great. We want those things. What I think people need to see is a plan of, look, we think in 5 years in this model, we can get the Prem not only profitable, but significantly profitable to the point where we can start reinvesting that money into expanding grassroots academies, pathways, etc. Within 10 years, we think we can have a viable Prem and Champ model where we have promotion and relegation between, I don't know, let's say conservatively 26 teams.
Yeah,
I don't think that's an unreasonable ambition.
No, that's realistic. I think that's realistic.
If you implement a long-term plan, but you have to set out that vision for it, because this kind of opaque process that we constantly go through in English rugby, where no one really knows what it is they're trying to get to and how they're trying to get to it. You've got to lay out, look, this is why we think this model works now. This is where we think we can get to in a couple of years, 5 years, 10 years. And this is how we think that will then affect the wider rugby ecosystem. Why we think it's not just good for top level rugby, we think it's good for grassroots rugby too.
Yeah.
That you have to do that.
Yeah, I do wonder if you look through the smoke and mirrors, if there have been little snippets that have been released over the years that are pointing in the direction. Like you think back in the past where we've spoken about, because they announced those kind of junior player contracts, homegrown players under the age of 25 and the kind of their base salary. They've spoken about these kind of A-League returning. All these little things. I just wonder if they're little snippets that they just put out there as feelers to see what people think about it. Because I think these are the sort of things that would need to be considered if you are going to have this franchise league system with a closed-up Prem, try and introduce the champ, because I think the idea would be to have these A-League sides compete against champ sides.
Yeah, well, here's where I think you can tie some of those things in together. Right now, English rugby's pathway is as healthy as it's ever been.
Yeah.
The work that particularly someone like Conor O'Shea has done in the RFU. Just look at any squad in the Prem at the moment and the number of young academy players that are not only in and around squads, are playing regularly, not just in domestic but European competition. We'll come on to some of those issues later on. But what you don't have an issue with at the moment is there being enough players. There's a mass of young academy players coming through that actually there's not enough games to service.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? There's not enough rugby for these highly talented youngsters to be able to play at their top level. That's the problem.
So you suddenly then have to start thinking about, right, how do we get them game time? And I think that's where they are testing the water with these A-League games, the under-23s league, those kind of things. And I do think that's where the champ has an opportunity. And I do mean an opportunity to tie itself to the future of Prem rugby.
Yeah.
I think everyone's got to have a bit of vision about it.
Yeah. I did think it was interesting yesterday. I was just perusing the socials and I saw that England Rugby were sharing some champ rugby content. And I think that's the first time I've seen that in a while.
To be fair, I think particularly on Instagram, they've shared quite a bit. They do quite a lot of grassroots stuff, but they also share a reasonable amount of champ stuff.
Oh, good. That shows how much I pay attention to socials. But it's recognisable. But yeah, it's an interesting space. Obviously, here at Ruxmore's Overballs, we're going to stay abreast of this issue because we're very intrigued to where this goes. But perhaps more closer to home calendar terms, Rory, let's move on to the transfer merry-go-round that seems to have commenced. Let me kind of summarise some of what's going on at the moment. So, Bath. Let's just go through the clubs. Bath, we know Thomas Totoy's leaving. Other than that, it's quite quiet. Bristol, James Dunn has already announced he's going to Harlequins. There's rumours of Benjamin Elizalde going to France. Rumours of a chap called Toby Wilson coming in. Okay, that's fairly standard. Exeter Chiefs, not a lot going on. Loosely linked with Furbank, but I think that's mostly agent talk. Gloucester, Jack Morgan, Dowie Lake, Dan Robson, already announced to coming in. Thomas Williams announced going out. Boo. Also linked with Kieran Hardy, but maybe that, I'm not sure whether that one's true. Quinns, James Dunn, as I mentioned before. Furbank, heavily rumoured to be going there from Northampton. Leicester, George Martin's already announced going. Nicky Smith off to Sale. Rumoured to be getting Reece Correa and Dan Edwards in. Red Bulls, linked with everyone. Just basically any name will be linked with them. Saints, again, Furbank, that's the big name. Sam Graham, Robbie Smith linked out. James Ram, I've heard rumours. Sale, Joe Marchant coming back to the Prem. Woo! Potentially losing their last two Dupreers. And Sarri's doing a fair bit. Tom Willis obviously gone. There's rumours of Elliot Daly, Alex Lazowski, Andy Onyama Christie all going to Red Bulls. As I said, everyone's linked to Red Bulls. Basically, normally this sort of stuff doesn't start until the new year. But it seems to be going off and business is going on already. So what do you make of that from a fan perspective, that what feels like maybe an incredibly busy transfer year? And I don't know if it's the Red Bull factor or whether it's the fact that finances aren't as tight as they have been factor, or it's just that weird point in a World Cup cycle where some players are out of contract and they've not made it to their national team, so they're now looking at options. What do you make of it?
Well, I think certainly two of those points are definitely true. I think the Newcastle Red Bull factor is real. You just got to start recognising that there's a big pull to the northeast at the moment. Anyone out of contract is going to be telling their agent, just float something over there, see what they're offering. I think the good news about the finances coming up next year are real. They're thinking of something like a £200 million increase in revenue at the Prem. 3 clubs becoming profitable, I should say. rumours of TV deals, etc. That's all. Those are the things that definitely start to inflate agents' asks on wages, certainly. And I think clubs are probably having to get on top of that. You've had Alex Sanderson talk about that with Alex Chandler Cunningham South recently. The quote was, taking the piss. I wonder if the other element is clubs recognising the engagement opportunity with a bit of a transfer saga and a big signing.
I love it. I think
and just doubling down on that. I would argue actually Gloucester haven't done a very good job of that this week with some big signings. They've just done some sort of quite
just a poster,
quite meager social media engagement. Particularly, they've signed 2 Welsh rugby captains. I felt like they should have gone bigger on that.
I'm surprised there hasn't been any kind of social media strategy around the announcement of Jack Morgan, who is potentially one of the best back rowers coming from Wales for a generation.
Yeah,
maybe a bit of video. Maybe just a little video recording, like even the stuff they did last year.
They've got something lined up. Yeah, hopefully they got something lined up. At the moment, it's been pretty meager.
Yeah, because last year Gloucester did quite a good job, I thought, with that kind of the messaging and saying, "Oh, who's this coming to Gloucester?" But this it's just, "Oh, here's something they've drawn up in Canva. They're arriving."
Yeah. Which might suggest it's all been quite rushed and no one's been able to put a plan in place of how they deal with these things. But who knows?
Maybe there was a race. Maybe there was a race to do it and get it announced, but still.
Yeah, not ideal from that point of view. But there's clearly been a bit of a jump on things. I think there is a bit of a rush from clubs. I think everyone's realised everyone's in a race now to get their players lined up for next season, because anyone, you can see what happened with the Red Bulls having to leave it so late because of waiting for the investment. You can always tell the teams that didn't have the time to build their squad out as intelligent as they would have liked. Gloucester this season just having to bring in so many players because they hadn't got everything lined up in time. They just had such a big turnover.
Scattergun. They sign everyone, and some of them might be good.
Yeah, which is exactly what's happened. But yeah, I don't know what the root cause necessarily is. I think it's probably a mixture of all of those things in some ways. But what I think is exciting is to see that the likes of Dewi Lake, Jack Morgan are coming into the league. I expect Joe Marchant coming back into the league. Oh, I
forgot one as well. Faf de Klerk rumoured to Red Bulls as well.
Faf de Klerk rumoured, yeah. And there's always broad rumours about the likes of Carl Sinclair potentially coming back with an aim to get back in the squad for the World Cup. Jack Morgan's got a break clause in his contract to come and play in England for a year. Kapoku. I'm sure people are looking at Kapoku to come back in. So, maybe it's just a sign that the strength of the Prem is genuinely real.
Maybe, but as a fan of the transfer merry-go-round, I will be keeping a very close eye on it. But I do think it's yet another sign of positivity going on in the league, because I think the transfer activity, the re-signings of contracts, I think it all points that clubs are more financially footed than people sometimes think. And I'm here for it, even if it does mean that George Furbank may leave Northampton Saints, which would be a sad day for me. I hope it doesn't happen, Rory. But, you could be happy because you've got Jack Morgan and Dewi Lake.
It's the best bit of news we'd have for a little while, so I'm going to sit here quite smug, even though that we're losing Thomas.
Yeah. Well, lots of incomings and outgoings to go through yet, but we'll keep everyone abreast, I'm sure. Now, before we get into the Champions Cup games, you may notice a theme with some of our summaries of these games. So, in aid of that, I want to pose a hypothetical for you, Rory. Imagine a world, the EPCR, which is the organisation that kind of governs and runs these competitions. Imagine that they all of a sudden decided they're going to run a purely democratic system where the leaders of the EPCR are wholly elected from fans. What would be Ruxmall's and Ovalball's manifesto for change in the EPCR to bring European back to the top of the table where it should be? Because let's face it, right now, it isn't.
No. Well, for my money, I think the simplest solution that requires the least amount of change to the current structure is you simply go from 4 pools of 6 to 6 pools of 4. You then have everyone plays everyone in their pool home and away, and the 6 winners plus the top 2 runners up proceed to a last round of 8.
Sounds awfully familiar, Rory.
Well, you're
such a politician. Rolling out the old stuff, bringing it back round again. Where's the new stuff, Rory?
Do you know what? I thought? I thought there's only so many formats competition can take. We've tried several that have not worked. When did one work? Oh, yes. When we had pools where everyone played home and away, and we went into a genuine competitive knockout system where you had to impress in the pools to get through. That feels like the fairest way to do it. And what that then does, it makes the pool games genuinely exciting and genuinely competitive, because there's an incentive to not just win it, but to become one of the best runners-up, as it used to be.
Okay,
so every game meant something.
I will adopt my best Laura Kunzberg impression, and I'll pose to you a challenge to that format in this current setup. Presently, there are 3 leagues feeding this competition, 6 groups of 4. That means there will be 4 teams in each group. That means each group will have 2 teams from one of the leagues.
Yeah.
How does that work?
The same way it would work anyway. Why? I don't know why that would be a problem. I don't see why it's a problem.
Because it's boring. I don't want to draw Bristol in a European. I played Bristol twice. You have to play them twice in the league anyway.
So?
It's boring. Bring something new, Rory.
What, more boring than the current format that no one's going to watch and no one's watching on the telly?
Well, let's face it. It could be just like the Premiership Rugby Cup.
I mean, I don't think that's true. I don't think that would be the case. You could make sure that it's in a format where there's as little clash, because of the URC, you can format it in such a way that it's countries from it's teams from different countries within the URC generally that are filtered throughout the pools. So in that way, you could probably mitigate there being just lots of local trips. So whilst you might end up playing. There'll be URC teams that end up playing the same teams more frequently. They'll be playing them in Europe. So let's, for example, say the team is Leinster and you're another URC team in that. You will come against a different Leinster team because they don't play the same one in Europe as they do in the league.
No, very true. I think here's an idea, Rory. What if you just reduce the number of Prem teams in the competition to 6, and reduce the number of URC teams into the competition to 6, and reduce the number of top 14 teams to number 6, and you have 6 groups of 3. Home away, 4 games. Top team goes through. Same concept, but it's...
My challenge there would be that does dramatically reduce the number of games you can show on the telly. So my point, the reason why I went with my format is because you still get the same number of games, but more games would be more meaningful.
But as someone who is a champion of forward thinking, maybe freeing up some space in the calendar will make room for our future 14-team league in this Prem franchise league.
Yeah, that's an argument. I would say on this occasion we're advocating for European competition, not the Prem. So we have to slightly discount that from our thinking. Although I accept that. That's.
I'll remind you of what you said last week, Rory. More rugby doesn't equal better rugby.
No, yes, I agree with that. And actually, if it were just for me, I'd be more inclined to move towards what you're saying. The manifesto that I'm putting in place is one that I think works best for fans, broadcasters, and subs, because even if you end up not getting out of the pool stage, you still would end up with 3 home games. Okay. So you still get 3 opportunities to make money on the tickets and the concessions, etc. You've still got that number of games to sell to a broadcaster, but you've now got a narrative you can sell for the pool matches. So the broadcaster isn't just effectively buying the knockout stages, which, let's be honest, at the moment, Premier Sport is basically just paying for the knockout stages because no one's really interested in the pools.
Oh, yeah, I'd argue no one's interested in the knockout stages, really, either.
That's probably true, but certainly they're not interested in the pools.
Okay. One final question for you, Rory, on your manifesto.
Please.
Are the South African sides involved in your EPCR competitions?
I think they have to be, because they're part of the URC. I don't think you can have the South Africans involved in the URC and not involve them in European Cups. I think, if we're being honest, from a non-URC fan, that having the South Africans part of the URC has been a real problem for everyone else. And it's muddied this competition in a way that's sort of led to the point that we're at now, where it's overly complicated and people are less interested. But we can't control that at this point. I think even the South African fans, and based on some of the comments we've had on socials recently, they want to go back to Super Rugby. which I get. I totally get why they would, because Super Rugby was better and the European Cup was better, but that being the case. But
Yeah.
we are where we are.
We are where we are, despite the fans being in disagreement. This is why I just thought I'd give you a chance to get it on the manifesto, but I understand your reasonings for keeping them in there, because we don't govern the URC, so we can't tell them what to do with their competition if we were to be leaders of the EPCR.
No, if you're asking me for a manifesto as grand overlord of all rugby in the world, we've got a different conversation. But this is my manifesto purely for European competition.
That's fair. Maybe we can cover that manifesto in another episode. But yeah, okay. I'm on board with the manifesto, Rory. You've got my rubber stamping. Listener, if you've got any other bright ideas about how you would change European rugby, please do let us know, because we've enjoyed the interaction and the comments below the line on our content this week, where people have been quite emotive about the competition and its current
weirdly,
state.
not that many pelters our way.
Next to no pelters our way.
This is
broadly
definitely the most agreement we've had on a clip.
It's been incredibly uncomfortable to have just no one having a go at us. It feels very strange, but that is why I'm doubling down on the content, Rory. But yeah, okay, that's that for the section of the podcast where we aren't talking about rugby that's happened. We're moving on from what our theoretical rugby world is, and we're going to talk about rugby that happened this weekend, Rory. Now, as I said at the start, last week we tried to go through game by game. We rushed a little bit. We'll try and be a bit more selective, but what I'll do is I'll start off for the listener, in case you aren't aware, although I'm sure you all are, what the results of the game were. So I'll just run through them very, very quickly. So Leicester 15, Leinster 23, Stormers 42, La Rochelle 21, Sharks 28, Saracens 23, Clermont 14, Sale 35, Bordeaux 50, Scarlets 21, Munster 31, Gloucester 3. I'm quickly turning into the BBC Sports football results guy. Glasgow 28, Toulouse 21. Harlequins 68, Bayonne 14. Cast 33, Edinburgh 0. Toulon 45, Bath 34. Northampton Saints 50, Bulls 5. Bristol Bears 61, Section Palois 12. So there you go, listener. Those are the results that took place. Now, Rory, let's pick and choose the results there that stood out the most to us, and let's talk about those games. So first and foremost, which is the game you want to talk about more than any other game?
Well, I think one of the big themes that listeners will have picked up from there is that there were only 2 away wins this week. So I think we should go for one of those. And I think I'd like to start on Friday night with Tigers Leinster.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. Now, obviously, as you mentioned, away wins have been a rare commodity this round. Team selection up for debate. One thing that's certainly not up for debate in this game was team selection, because I think this is 2 sides that actually did put out pretty much full-strength sides, which was a rarity in this round. And I think it made for a grand old contest, Rory.
Made for a great game. So Leinster picking Harry Byrne at 10 for Sam Prendergast. I wonder if that's potentially something we'll see in Ireland's selection as well. I think there's, from the conversation I was having at the weekend, certainly everyone thinks that Gloucester signed the wrong Byrne brother, which I'd agree with. But also a lot of talk about Sam Prendergast not living up to what he was originally billed as, and probably being the 3rd best fly half of the 3 at the moment. I'd agree. I thought this was possibly the most entertaining game of the weekend, Bath notwithstanding, purely because this was a proper competition. Tigers obviously will come away disappointed not to have got a point out of this, because they were certainly worthy of that. I think, lots of players deserve, to be commended for their performance in this one. I thought Billy Searle is continuing to prove that he is a top-level Prem fly half. I thought he was excellent again. Adam Radwan and Ollie Hassel-Collins are... Oh,
the Radwan try.
The Radwan try is phenomenal, but the Hassel-Collins try was arguably more impressive for the footballing skills.
Yeah. It feels like they've both got this magic ability just to control a bouncing rugby ball that I've never been able to master. I don't know about you, Rory.
No, No. I was never much of a footballer, but these two lads have got some serious,
As they say
serious,
in the world of football, they've got techers.
they've got serious techers. Both their tries were brilliant. I thought the centres, Kata and Wand, Will Wand has really come on this season. He's been really, really good. Solomon Kata, his game stepped up. He's just looking much more well-rounded centre.
He looked very annoyed to be when he was dragged off the pitch. I don't know if you saw the pictures.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was a good move to take him off, unless there was a specific reason why they felt they had to get Orlando Bailey on. But they were better off with those two in the centres, I think.
Yeah.
Freddie Stewart, I thought, had a good game. Obviously, he tried to kill Jack Conan early on, but managed to get away with that one. Probably correctly, I think. To be fair,
yeah, it was a slip, wasn't it? So
yeah, it kind of slipped over.
Control. Yeah,
and then in the pack, Nicky Smith and Joe Hayes immense, both at scrum time and around the pitch. Cam Henderson and Harry Wells, just proper old-fashioned lock performances. Harry Wells was in amongst it constantly, trying to start fights. And
proper workhorses. I love it.
Yeah. A bit very sort of classic Leicester lock play from the two of them.
It was definitely a feisty match, and I'm guessing those two had a bit to do with that.
They did. Well, I think Leinster came in with real niggle. James Lowe was at the forefront of that, I think.
Surprise.
Caelan Doris was in the ear of the referee every 5 seconds.
Yeah. So I personally think this game was maybe won or lost with the benches.
Yes,
I think it's fair to say that, like, there's no slight on Archie van der Fleer or Will Hurd, but they are not Abbas Slimani, who was their third choice tight head because Tag Furlong had to pull out. And I think that showed at the set piece in the latter part of the game. And I think that is basically the only reason Leicester didn't come away with a point, I think, because Leinster were able to arm wrestle their way in that final 20.
Well, it's the old charge levelled against Prem teams versus, well, particularly Leinster, but a lot of the European teams, Leinster in the top 14 particularly, that Prem teams don't have the ability to hold squads in the same way to have that bench impact. And, it was born true on this one. But, Leicester obviously missing Clare to come on at hooker, to bring on Theobald Thomas, who threw a couple of skewed ones at the line-out, which hurt momentum. Didn't have Tara Cathar to come on at loosehead, so Archie van der Fleer, probably third or fourth choice loosehead for them. Missing Jack Van Poorfleet at 9. I think Whiteley struggled a little bit with his kick-in. And then bringing on Alan later on, as a young lad. Parise missing in the centres, even as a bench option. You can just see how injuries do hurt and Prem teams a bit more in that sense.
Yeah.
But, that's the nature of European competition. And, I think Leinster would have come away from that game thinking they probably got away with one.
I think it was close call. It wasn't easy for them.
No, it wasn't easy. And they struggled a bit at scrum time at times. They struggled to get go forward. I mean, Leicester Tigers' defence was something else, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, their defence was monstrous, and I think we've kind of seen that all season. It seems like their game plan at the moment is built off just having an incredibly reliable, strong defence. And I think Leinster really struggled, definitely in the first half, to really get much go forward at all.
Yeah, they're also pretty inaccurate.
Very inaccurate.
I thought James Lowe had quite a poor game.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know. He's butchered opportunities to put Keller in. He was kicked one out on the full. It generally just felt quite poor from him on this one. I thought the pack, just inaccurate at things like the breakdown, things you sort of expect from Leinster to be absolutely rock solid at, that the breakdown and their little passing patterns just weren't quite there.
I have seen some fans suggest this is part of a Lions hangover. Do you reckon that plays a part for Leinster?
If it does, I don't have a lot of sympathy with it.
No. Oh, boo-hoo. You had several players on the Lions tour that you're now able to roll out after you've given them an extended break at the URC. So is Leinster. So what else is there to go off of this game other than a well-avoided banana skin for Leinster? They were able to get the win.
I think the story for a lot of people in this game, a lot of people watching this game, should be that Leinster are not the infallible team they were a few years ago.
No.
And they're by no means an easy game to come up against. They are not a weak team, but they are more vulnerable than they have been for some time. And I would like to see more teams going into games against Leinster in this competition with almost an expectation of coming away with a result rather than just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Because I think you can actually go into a game with Leinster right now and think we've got more than a puncher's chance of getting through this one.
Yeah, I think this season they're a team you don't go into thinking damage limitation. You should be a team you're going into and saying this is an opportunity.
Yeah,
I think Leicester almost got that right. I think, as we said, I think the bench, their injury problems, where a few key players missing, it may have been a different story. But
yeah,
I think they've given hope to others. Leinster,
I think they have. You put into that Tigers squad, Liebenberg and Chesham, George Martin, arguably. Your man, the number 8, the Welsh number 8. God, his name's just escaped me. Ollie Cracknell. These are Ione, right? These are stalwart Leicester players they were missing, and they still pushed Leinster the whole way. So, I don't think any other team should go into a game with Leinster not thinking they can get something out of this. Quinn's got 4 tries against Leinster in Dublin, not with their strongest team. So there's a lot of reasons to think there's blood in the water here.
Yeah, I just hope this isn't a missed opportunity for the two Prem sides, because I suspect Leinster may only get stronger when it comes to the next round of Champs Cups, because maybe they would have got a bit of that post-Lions fog out of the brain. Maybe they're a bit more game time together in the URC if they get selected. Perhaps it's a missed opportunity, or perhaps Leinster really are there for the taking this year. That will remain to be seen. Now, Rory, if I was to give you the option to pick another game to analyse, we've now looked at Leinster's 23-15 victory over Leicester. Where should we take our audience to next?
Well, should we go for the other away victory? Should we go for Sale away at Claremont?
That feels appropriate. Let's go with Sale versus Claremont. And this probably was, for me, maybe the biggest surprise of the round.
Yeah.
Maybe bar Glasgow. I was not expecting Sale to go there with the injury problems they've got, the selection they put out, and to really do a number on Claremont.
Absolutely did a job on them, didn't they? They were brilliant. I'd say right at the top, the purple kit is growing on me.
Oh, good. Because you weren't
fond. The purple kit. Not initially, but I think now I quite like it. It looks quite good.
That's good.
I think to a man they were fantastic. That is a strong Claremont side. The likes of Simone, Moala, Raka, Fowl, in the back line, Tolofua, Kremer, Simmons, is a big, strong, powerful Claremont outfit.
Yeah.
To go away and to score 5 tries and demolish them by over 20 points is, for me, the biggest upset of the week, possibly the biggest upset of the tournament so far.
Yeah.
When you look at who's missing from that Sale squad across the board, not even, they're missing, obviously, George Ford. They're missing probably 2 of their first choice back 3. They're missing Tom Curry. They're missing one of the Dupree brothers. Yeah. They're missing Luke Cowan-Dickey, Bevan Rodd, Ashraf Okafor, their entire starting front row.
Yeah, I think that puts it more into perspective than anything. Like they've brought in short-term cover on their bench in that Gershwin there. I've never heard of him, but he's their only back cover on the bench because they are that threadbare at the moment. And to go to Claremont, and Claremont are one of the teams that used to be a powerhouse in this competition, like genuine powerhouse. And the idea of beating them at home in the group stages was something that just didn't happen. So for Sale to go there, I think the thing with Sale that I like to draw out is their defence, their tackling, I think is unparalleled in Europe.
Yeah, probably, actually, to be honest. Their commitment to the cause is something different. Whatever their psychological coaching is around their defence, it's unbelievable, their commitment to their defence. One of the things I noticed, there was a massive hit where Rafi Quirk and Alex Wills doubled up on someone on the edge. I think it was Fowl. It was certainly one of the bigger backs for Claremont. And they absolutely levered in between them. These are probably the two smallest backs on the pitch at this point.
Yeah.
just absolutely levered him. And you just watch him. I mean, you're not getting through that today.
No. I think what it is, I think they're probably the most comfortable side out of possession. They just seem to they don't have any issue with not having the ball. And I think that's where it stems from. So I did the stats earlier this week. Of the top tacklers in the competition in the first 2 rounds, 5 of the top 10, the top 5 in the top 10 are all Sharks players. With Ernst van Rijn.
That's mental.
Ernst van Rijn by himself has made 53 tackles in just 2 games of rugby.
Well, they made something like 280 tackles last week against Glasgow. It was like 130 more than the next biggest tacklers.
Yeah,
it's ludicrous.
It is insane. But I think it's born out of the fact of how comfortable they are in defence and just not having the ball.
Well, I wonder if it's more partly born out of that, but also partly born out of an acknowledgement where, because of the injuries they've got and the lack of continuity they've got in attack, they've gone, well, we can't build a cohesive attack very well at the moment because we don't know who's playing week to week. Yeah. We can definitely build a cohesive defence. We can do that. So we'll just defend our way to winning the game, and which they sort of have done this week.
Yeah. I think so. And it's also nice to see Rafi Quirk, I thought, had one of his better games. Once again, rucks balls and oval balls, putting the positive curse on a player. The second we say anything negative, they will have their kind of upturn. And it's not the only person this week who's done that. I thought it was Rafi's best performance I've seen for quite some time, possibly since sort of the big injuries he had really. I don't remember, the number of breaks he made in this, even when he had to go play fullback for a bit. He was making breaks constantly. He looked strong, he looked quick, his passing was really good. Really took the pressure off Rob de Prem. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's that heads up rugby that he was really good at. As coaches call it. So, you're welcome, Rafi Quirk and Sale Sharks fan. We've given you that good juju. But ultimately, this victory was built on just monstrous defence and just unrelenting tackling.
They just pressured Claremont was so sloppy. I mean, you could see Christophe Urios on the sideline with his daft glasses, just getting more and more frustrated at how many unforced errors they were making, and it was the constant pressure and harassment from Sale. Yeah. It was right before half time. Claremont had 2 opportunities in the 22 to take. They went down. I think it was 20 points to 7 to Sale at half time. So they had 2 gilt-edged opportunities to score a try and sort of bring it within a score, and they messed it up on both occasions. And then Sale scored first after half time. Yeah, and it was just sloppiness from them. Knocking balls on at the wrong time, kicking out on the full, just really, missing a penalty kick to touch, kicking that one out on the full, just really, really poor stuff.
Yeah, and I wonder, that's probably mostly born out of, some of it concentration, but the other, I think it is the defensive pressure. And I think we've seen this year that seems to be, and maybe it is born out of their selection, whereas that's their blueprint this year.
Well, the Bedlow try came from pressure on the back line. Claremont pulled the ball back too far and he just kicked it down the other end. It all just comes from defensive pressure, and it's quite often that the most effective defense wins titles. They might not win every game, but they tend to gravitate towards winning titles and trophies because you do that more often, you're more likely to win than not.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sale Sharks are onto a winner there, and after their home defeat to Glasgow, where I thought, that's them done in this competition.
They're right back in it.
They're right back in it in that group, and although they have got a very tough group, they've given themselves a real shot at making the next round because basically everyone makes the next round in this format anyway. Okay, so we've covered the 2 away victories. Sale winning 35-14 against Clermont in Clermont. Before we go off to our stable Prem clubs, I would like to draw your attention to the other surprising result. For most, I think. Maybe not those north of Hadrian's Wall. Glasgow 28, Toulouse 21.
Yeah.
What did you make of this game, Rory?
It's interesting. In some ways, and for good reason, this is the story of a massive Glasgow turnaround in the second half, right? Where they score 4 tries in 20 minutes and go from 21-0 down to 28-21 up. Yeah. And at the top level, that is the story of it. Mm-hmm. What I actually thought watching this one was how well Glasgow played pretty much throughout this game. And in the first half, they were just not accurate enough at the right times and gave Toulouse kind of the opportunity to either turn the ball over or, in the case of, I think it was Gorges's first try, there was a knock on and Toulouse just sort of snatched the ball and just, it was a complete smash and grab.
Yeah.
In the second half, what happened was Glasgow tightened it up and they were so direct and so physical. They were just battered Toulouse. You don't see it often.
No.
I thought they were good throughout the whole game, really. But particularly when the weather came in as well.
Also, I'm glad you said that.
Down the door.
I'm glad you said that, Rory, because I'm not buying the story that some people are saying that it's just because of the wind at Scotstoun. Because I think Glasgow were good for it regardless of the weather. Because if you look at the way they were playing, they weren't, in the second half when they were dominant, they weren't playing territory and kicking the ball long and using the wind. They were just carrying relentlessly, getting over the gain line, ball in hand, quick ruck speed, and didn't give Toulouse any room to breathe, to regather, and they didn't have an answer for it. And that's how they got those 4 tries, because Toulouse just didn't know how to respond to it.
No, I agree. I think they were. I think they were just very direct with the ball. They did kick well. Yeah, but I'd be more interested to know the carrying stats of the likes. I think Stafford McDowell was phenomenal. Tuipulotu was as good. He obviously scored as well, but I thought he was just generally the way he knit the play together, the way he carried directly when he could. It was brilliant. But then also the carrying, the carrying of both Ferguson brothers.
Well, do you want some carrying stats?
Hit me.
Well, so Xander Ferguson made 17 carries, Matt Ferguson 12 carries, Jack Dempsey 15 carries, Rory Darge 15 carries, Stafford McDowell 11, Sione Tuipulotu 10. Considering he was mostly anonymous in the first half, that is all the second half. Adam Hastings 10 carries. Who else? Scott Cummings, Gregor Brown. How good was he when he came on?
So good when he came on.
I think it just shows how direct they were, because they were just in their faces.
Yeah, those aren't the stats of a team that's kicked the leather off it all game.
No, I've looked at the stats. You can tell the teams and the games that there's been a lot of ping pong. That was not a ping pong kicking game in any way, shape, or form. So
I thought Toulouse looked spooked. In the
absolutely. And it was odd because this was supposed to be the great return of Anton Dupont and Romain Untermack, and they didn't have an answer for it. Yes, Dupont had a great, his read of the Flamand break and to kind of be at the end of that. Yes, that is a sign of Dupont's genius. Yes, brilliant. Big tick to Dupont. I think other than that moment, he was mostly, human rather than superhuman than he normally is.
He didn't really shine beyond that. I thought the 2 centres were pretty good, Gorges and Costes.
So that from a English fan perspective is a scary prospect because they're both 11.
I think 10 or 11. Yeah,
10 or 11.
Costes, the son of a former Toulouse and France player, back rower. Looks very similar to his dad actually. Given the other young centres that we've talked about in recent weeks, Deporter and
they've got a few.
Gaetan.
Toulouse have 2 very, very good young centres. Especially, I think Gorges looks a bit special for sure.
Yeah, he does. Scary thing for Toulouse, their chance looks like they're going to sign Menoncello for next year as well.
Oh,
because they needed that.
Just what they need. But they can have all the players they want in the world. Glasgow have again. Similar theme here to Leinster. Toulouse are beatable. Yeah, maybe they've portrayed what the blueprint is, that Toulouse don't know what to do when you are direct, you keep it close, and you just do not give them room to breathe.
You have to be relentless, and you have to run with real intent. I think what I found, watching games over the weekend in general, it's frustrating when you watch teams watch players who don't carry accelerating into contact. It's weird how often it is. You sort of always taught to accelerate into contact. It's weird how often you see players not do it.
Yeah.
Glasgow did it pretty much all game. I want to give a special shout out to Jamie Doby, actually, who I thought was excellent at 9 and almost better when he went onto the wing.
Yeah.
That guy's turned into a properly class operator.
Yes, and he is an ideal weapon to have in terms of this modern-day utility player, because I think he is just as good on the wing as he is at scrum half. And I thought George Horn, fair play to him, he probably didn't like being dropped for Jamie Dobie, but he came on and he had a big influence on that second half as well.
Huge influence, yeah. I can't fault anything Glasgow really did on this game. I mean, don't be wrong, Toulouse were very, particularly the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, they were all over them.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought Glasgow played pretty well for a lot of that first half, just weren't getting the kind of breaks. Then Toulouse didn't really do much until Gorges's second try, which was about 5 minutes or so before the end. Didn't really do much between their sort of second and third try.
No. Sorry, Rory, my doorbell's gone.
Oh, here we go, listener. Here we go. I wonder what it is this week. It says Bollinger, and it says the blood of the poor. Interesting. Who knew you could get that delivered? Presume that's some sort of cocktail mix. I mean, it's really outrageous, actually. We set these times up at quite a bit in advance. Enough time to know that there's a delivery due. God, I think the post was brought a whole van to this door.
I'm back. Apologies. It was the very friendly every delivery driver who is delivering some Christmas shopping. That has not been done by me, unfortunately.
Excellent. No, I think to sum up this game, Glasgow immense, Toulouse pretty average actually, but the Toulouse bandas that they brought along, phenomenal.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah. French away fans this weekend.
But I thought because they were all dressed in kilts. I assumed it was Glasgow fans.
Well, I assumed there was. Well, the bandas is obviously a big tradition in southern French teams. I assumed they would have come along, and they're not averse to dressing up.
So maybe we'll have to dig into that one. But I agree. Either way, whichever side they're from, more of that, please, because we like it. But yeah, that opens up that group nicely. Glasgow all of a sudden in a very strong position in that group, I would say. So let's move on to more home territory, Rory. I think a game that I'm keen to talk about, and I will admit I've only seen the highlights of it, is the Sharks-Saracens game, because I want to draw attention to what is maybe a bit of a theme with away teams not sending their strongest. Saracens didn't send their very strongest side here, and they very nearly beat a very strong Sharks team. So does it beg the question?
Honestly, I would see this as a massive missed opportunity for Saracens.
Yes, absolutely.
It was a very wet and slippery day in Durban. It was a game pretty well set up for a Saracens type performance. It was very set up for someone like an Owen Farrell to control. The Sharks, they weren't bad. Obviously they won the game. Their scrum was massive, dominated Saracens. But when you look at the two teams, and obviously Saracens weren't bereft of all their stars, right?
No, they had some.
You look at the Sharks team, so just how many South Africa caps are in there, and how many players who've been talked up as potential South Africa caps are in there. Mm-hmm. They should have won that one relatively comfortably.
Yeah,
and I think they rather got away with it. They profited from having a bigger pack, particularly early on. Got them all try after a few minutes. But really, they were quite average in attack. But unless Andre Esterhazen made ground, they didn't really offer anything in attack, I thought. Tom Willis, this game was one where I had that thought of, oh, shit, we are actually genuinely really going to miss him for England, because he was skittling players in the carry.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't seem to be able to go a week without praising Tom Willis, because he is just that good.
He's phenomenal, and he was phenomenal in this game. When you think about what it takes to beat the Springboks, and you think we're not going to have Tom Willis to try and do that, you think, we're potentially in trouble here. He was so good.
He would be mighty useful against the Springboks in an England shirt, that's for sure. I thought Theo Dan had a good game as well. One of his
generally good. I still think his darts are not good enough.
Oh yeah, but it's a little bit of a theme that I want to draw on with some of the other Premiership sides, maybe, with how poor some of the line-out work has been. But yeah, I completely wholeheartedly agree that I feel that this is a completely missed opportunity, and this is such a huge failing in this certainly in this season's format, where teams are sending weakened sides when they could have just gone and got a bloody win and put themselves in a better position in the group to get a better home draw, to get more money through the door, more money on merchandise, more money on tickets, But for some reason, they're not interested in trying to top the group. They're just like, oh, we'll qualify. It was fine.
Well, and it's not even to denigrate the players that were brought in, because I thought Harry Wilson was really good at second row. I think carried really well.
Yeah.
I think, the Saracens back row, obviously didn't have Gonzalez. They didn't start Earl, but was still excellent. I thought Lee Hartley in particular at 12 was superb.
Yeah. Glad to see
Sam
him
Spink
back.
didn't have as much impact with it. Did score a try.
Yeah.
Bracken at 9 was excellent. Fergus Burke, not brilliant.
Not his best game, but average.
Wasn't his best game, but it was fine. But if you just think of the players the players you could add into that squad, Reece Carey, Maro Itoje, Tizar didn't start, Gonzalez not there, Farrell in particular, Nick Tompkins. Banzeel,
Kalori.
100% Kalori, they 100% could have won that game.
Yeah.
Because the Sharks were not that good. They had a stronger pack in the set piece, but they weren't that. The pack wasn't particularly effective around the pitch. 100% Saracens could have won that one.
Yeah.
It just feels like a completely missed opportunity.
I completely agree, and it's just it is frustrating that, like, I was pointing the finger at maybe the top 14 or the URC last week for sending weakened teams. We're doing it as well, and we're not. The Prem is not doing their bit to try and make this competition elite as I would like them to. And I just look at that and think, Saracens, you've missed a huge, glaring opportunity to take hold in a group, to try and get a home draw in the next round of the knockout games. And you're just kind of, I know that there's probably targeted this as one of their rest weeks for some of their internationals, maybe. That's the only thing I can think of. But for some of the players they're resting, they don't have enforced rest weeks. Like Tompkins, there's not an enforced rest week. Gonzalez, there's not an enforced rest week. Carey, there's not an enforced rest week. So it's a choice rather than enforced. And it's like, I thought most teams would want to go and win every game. And I get the feeling that they're not bothered about losing games, which is a harsh criticism of any professional sportsman, but it's hard to see it any other way because it's a glaring opportunity. Perhaps more... Do we talk about Gloucester here, Rory?
Well, let me give you sort of a bit of my thoughts on this one, because
I know your headline: worst game of rugby.
Yeah, genuinely, the worst game of rugby I've ever paid to go and watch. I mean, appalling, and both sides. The only thing more disappointing than Gloucester was Munster.
Yeah,
because the Gloucester side that turned up, Munster should have been playing some jouet, and they were dreadful. They couldn't string 3 passes together.
They were bad, yeah.
It was appalling, and everyone thought so. The game was at the new GAA stadium, so there's about 40,000 people there, roughly. That's what they said they were there. Probably more like 35.
Yeah.
Very flat atmosphere, to say. Really suffered for not being in Thomond Park, the atmosphere. And, if you look at when the tries were scored, so Kelly scored on 20 minutes, Haley scored on 51 minutes. To be honest, the first try came, you could argue, probably a bit against the run of play, but, that would have been exaggerating to say that any team had a play. Probably came from maybe one of only 2 bits of quality in that game from a very nice Nankiville float.
Yeah.
Probably the only bit of real quality that came out of the game.
Yeah.
Haley scored off a ball that was kicked very short, then bounced over everyone's heads into the backfield just to then run in and finish it off. But at that point, Gloucester were very much in the fight for it. They weren't playing well by any stretch. I'm not going to suggest they were playing well. But given that, if you look at the team, you had the 2 Knight brothers in the centres with a combined age of under 40. Josh Hathaway on his first game back. Mike Austin, a third choice scrum half, starting. Jack Clement and Arthur Clark on their first games back. Jamal Ford Robinson on his first game back. Very, very much a second or third choice in pretty much every position at the moment.
Yeah.
Munster were full bore.
Yeah. I think that's what made it more disappointing.
And honestly, it wasn't until Gloucester brought on basically the schoolboys for the last 20 minutes that they managed to pull away and make it look a more comprehensive scoreline. It was appalling. And everyone thought so in the stadium. Every Munster fan I talked to was like, "We're actually delighted you didn't bring your first team because you beat us."
Yeah, it would have been again missed opportunity if Gloucester
Again,
took
a complete missed opportunity because actually you had Thomas Williams and Seb Atkinson at least into their back line. That suddenly becomes a very different prospect.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have started Cockgreave over Rob Russell, who was rubbish.
Don't want to say anything, but yeah,
God, just dreadful. I don't know what we thought we were doing when we signed him. He was rubbish.
Yeah.
I couldn't have been more disappointed by the game.
Yeah, and
Cork,
to top it all
brilliant.
off, Cork
Weekend-
weekend brilliant, Rugby awful, and whoever made the decision for Gloucester to wear red and Munster to wear pink, give your head a wobble, because that was
honestly, when they came out, we all looked at each other and went, because we'd announced we'd be wearing our European kit. We'd literally announced we were going to wear our black European kit and then didn't, and I don't know why.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't the home team wear their home colours in a home game against the team that's announced they're not wearing their home kit? Just let them wear red. That's what Munster thought, probably. But yeah, well, less said about that, the better. Perhaps let's move on to a more maybe optimistic story for some fans. I know we've got a bit of a listenership in the Quins fan space. I think they'll be feeling a bit happier this week, albeit playing the Gloucester equivalent in France of Bayonne, who seemed to...
this was a bit of a training run, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't feel there's too much to draw analysis-wise from this fixture, other than it was a lovely exercise for Harlequins' backs to work on a few backs moves. Marcus Smith had a good game.
I think the things I would highlight in this game was Northmore and Beard again looked really good, particularly Northmore actually.
Yeah,
I thought it was probably his best game of the season since the summer.
Yeah.
Cassius Cleese still on the comeback trail, looking really, really dangerous in the wing.
Do you know what? He reminds me a little bit of prime Ollie Slightholm.
Yeah, I could see that. I can see that. Look, just a finisher, big physical finisher,
and fights for extra yards. It's a good quality. It's by no means a negative.
I think Caden Murley is growing more and more into a leadership role. Looks really good as a captain, and played really well. And Zach Carr at 8, I'm continuing to be impressed by his development this season. Has been phenomenal.
You can see why those positive noises in the pre-season were. I think we're starting to see it in the more competitive fixtures now, because I think he definitely has had his best game since pre-season in a Quins shirt. Albeit against a Bayonne side that I don't know a great deal about the side they put out, but there's a reason for that, and that's because not many do.
I felt for the lad on the right wing, Thompson. It was his professional debut. He's come through the system as a back rower, and in his first game they picked him on the wing.
Yeah,
and the 3 times I noticed him on the pitch, he shelled 2 high balls and then slipped over as I think it was Benson did a sort of dummied him, and he sort of literally just fell on his face.
Yeah, maybe he'll go back to the back row now.
I felt really bad for him. I thought Spring at 10 was interesting to watch. Quite a rangy, mobile 10. Maybe a future there.
Yeah, so I think he might have been that little bit of quality that they obviously have.
But the lad who replaced him about an hour, Boyle Tia, the son of East Tia, who I think was a Tongan player.
Yes.
But who played quite a lot of rugby in that area, I think, for Po and Bayonne, making his debut. So nice to see a little bit of a family heritage coming through. Aretheta at 8, young lad from Spain. And
he looked pretty good, to be fair. He did look pretty handy.
He looked
relatively unhandy side.
Maury at 12, the Italian, still looks handy.
Yeah, you know what you get.
But not much else to say about this one really, other than Quins had an opportunity to go and do a job on someone, and they managed it.
They managed it.
Bit of a training run for them, but you still got to put away what's in front of you. Yeah. Nice for Kieran Treadwell to score a crossfield. I liked that.
The smile on his face told you everything you needed to know about.
He was delighted, wasn't he?
He was delighted. Quite, and it was. Well, to be fair, it was a lovely crossfield kick. You couldn't have done that any better. Although
gorgeous,
it was gorgeous. So before we get on to the other 2 games that are kind of bit of routes in favour of Prem sides, should we dig into Toulon Bath, because that was probably a pretty tasty fixture.
Yeah, this was an excellent game actually. Really to and froed. Interesting to see what happens when Bath come up against a pack that can match them physically.
In recent weeks, we've seen a little bit of, I've said it before, the blueprint of beating these big teams. So we saw it with Leicester and how they kind of met Bath up front, and that kind of gave them that rarest of victories in the Prem. And I think we're starting to see Bath are beatable, and it is down to, are you able to respond to the pack? Now, I'm sure there's Bath fans who will point to a few players who weren't playing. Obviously, they're missing Will Stewart, Thomas DeToy.
Sorry, can I just pull up the world's smallest violin?
Yeah. Get the world's smallest violin
for the Bath squad.
Yeah, for the Bath squad, really depleted. Where they've had to start one of the hottest properties in young English propping in Billy Seller as their starting tight head, and they've had to bring in one of the most exciting second rows that we've been shouting about, Ewan Richards in for Charlie Ewells.
All players who've had quite a lot of involvement in the Prem this season.
They've had to rotate their squad and bring Ted Hill into the back row. It's hard times for Bath fans, I'm sure.
Yeah. I could see why they'd be crying about it. The thing is, they got matched at the scrum, they got matched at the maul.
Yeah.
And actually, it's interesting to see that Bath are slightly struggling with Plan B, I think, at the moment. Not entirely struggling with Plan B. There's still some really good moments. The Arthur Green try was excellent. The Hennessy try was excellent. But they are struggling with Plan B. And I think the conversation we had recently about Finn Russell,
he's not looking his best, is he?
Well, was it the Alan Oazy try, where he's just so casual in the backfield, and they end up having to hack it into touch, and they maul it over really easily.
Yeah.
That comes from Finn Russell just being too casual. Again, I don't know how you manage Finn Russell, right? There are top level coaches who will know better than me how you manage that personality. In old fashioned parlance, he looks like he needs a rocket put at him.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, he doesn't look like he's at the races.
Yeah, and I know we're not the only ones saying this. I've seen quite a lot of people pointing the finger at Finn Russell's form. And this is where I've drawn... so people are suggesting maybe this is Lions' tour hangover. But this isn't the first time Finn Russell's been like this, is it? No. Ask Gregor Townsend.
At the moment, it just feels like his head's not in it. And to be honest, when you've got Santi Carreras in that squad... who can step in at 10.
Is that what's needed? Yeah.
Mate, I think he needs a week on the bench.
Yeah, remind him that it's not a sure thing. Because, I completely agree. I think the old parlance, rocket up him, it does feel that way because he doesn't seem to have that, what's the word I'm looking for? He's not alert to things. He's just not on it. You're not getting that feeling he's not on it. He's not up for it.
He's not on it.
He's not motivated.
He looks like someone who isn't very motivated at the moment. In fairness, he put Santi Carreras in. It's not like he's doing nothing in games. But when you think he's one of the highest paid rugby players in the world, he is one of the most storied and talked about 10s in recent years. He's got to be doing better than he is at the moment. Because his whole reason for being in this team is to get Bath over the line to win trophies in games like this.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I don't think he's doing that. I don't think he's pulling his weight at the moment. At the same time, in fairness, this is a good Toulon side.
It is a good Toulon side.
And Lucchese, I thought was really good. I think it was return. I think he'd been out for a while. Gross at Lucid. I mean, early on, it looked like he was going to give Billy Seller a really torrid time. Actually, Billy Seller came back quite well in the fight.
I think Seller...
But that Gross was still pretty effective around the pitch as well. Carl Sinclair was phenomenal. Yeah. Really reminded everyone, I think, of what a good player he is.
He was so good, they did that rare thing of just not subbing him off because he was worth keeping on the pitch for 80 minutes.
Yeah. Lewis Ludlam, excellent.
Well, he
just absolutely, he's such a physical. I forgot how physical he is. He's so strong.
Yeah.
You can see why England coaches have liked him in the past. Just really.
Yeah. He's come from a really good stock.
Yeah, fair play. Charles Olivon, nice to see him back. He's forgotten what a good player Charles Olivon is. Zach Mercer still probably not quite there, but looking a little bit closer to being back there than he has done.
Yeah, I think he likes playing in France. I think that's what it is. I think when he was playing last week in Scotland, it was a bit close to England, so it kind of got to him, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably fair. But, Toulon's tries, by and large, came from physicality up front and creating massive dents in the Bath defence. Dreen's try came from Carl Sinclair basically sniping down the fringes and making a massive dent in the defence. Yeah. They got 2 more tries. Ludlam's try came from a massive scrum.
Yeah. I think Toulon looked like a team that had a bit of a beasting this week after their beating by Edinburgh, because they were night and day compared to what they were.
They were much better than they were last week. And, but just look at the names, Sunzel, Brex, Tuisuvu, Serran. That is a backline that can cook.
Yeah. On their day, they'll beat anyone. It's that sort of team. But I think certainly since, the post-Wilkinson era, that's always been the criticism pointed at Toulon, is that it's a team of superstars that turn up when they want to. Like Finn Russell would suit the Toulon game style. Like, you turn up when you want to, but you don't necessarily turn up every week. But they certainly turned up this week, and they matched Bath. They put Bath to the sword, and they were worth the victory. But I think Bath, they'll be happy to come away with a bonus point. I'm sure this would have been one of the games.
They would have probably recognised that they had a chance of not winning this one. To be fair,
yeah. Well, considering,
but I just thought it was for what we know Bath to be capable of. I still think a fair disappointing performance from by their standards.
Yeah. I think Bath at this point with the squad they got, they should be aiming to win every game. And they did try. So it's probably not the same boat as the Saracens criticism, because I think Bath did still put out a relatively strong squad.
Yeah, they did.
I think other than Carl Smith, who did a pretty good job, to be fair to him, in place of Spencer.
The look of him.
Yeah. So it's by no means a criticism, but obviously the strongest Bath squad does have Ben Spencer in it. But other than that, I think it was just the bench, which arguably Bath did still look pretty handy when their bench came off. Like I say, Arthur Green, Louis Hennessy, they all looked pretty handy. So maybe it's one that got away, but I think Toulon had the answer for them this week. But the competition rolls on. At least it wasn't a gimme like these next 2 games we'll talk about. Let's start with Northampton Saints against Bulls. 50 points to 5.
Better than me. You'll know better than me, I would think, because you'll have looked into this. How close to the Bulls' first team was that?
Not very. There's some.
No.
There's some. So
there's names I recognise in there, but I don't know the Bath squad, the Bulls squad, as well as I.
So the likes of like Elrig Lowe would definitely be kind of a starter. Van Heerden, their second row. Ludwig arguably be in there. Marcel Kurtzy would not probably be. But
the slight problem I also have is the number of South Africans. It's quite like what's in a Welsh team where a lot of them have the same name.
Yeah. So
because I see Van der Merwe on there, and I go, well, which Van der Merwe is it?
So let me read out some of the names that weren't there. So Kurtley Arenze. He's obviously a name. Seb de Klerk, we spoke about last week being rapid. He wasn't there. Cameron Hannacombe, we've not seen him yet. Cornell Hendricks. David Creel, he was not there. Wilco Lowe. Kanan Moody. Ruan Norsha. Who else? Andre Pollard wasn't playing.
Yeah.
Who else? Gerhard Steenekamp. Hendrick. Like a lot of players who would normally be in their starting team. Marco van Staden. So, it's probably the equivalent of the same team that Saracens sent to Sharks. I'd probably say that would be probably my closest comparison. And their fly half Volhutter is loaned over from Lions, his first game for Bulls, and I would say is not sufficient quality for that level of rugby, because he did not have a good game in any way, shape or form. I think he missed touch on about 4 penalties, just gave us the ball back several times, and his kicking was not good, so that didn't help them. There was like a 5-minute window where they got a little bit of go forward, mainly through Elrig Lowe, who did look good. But other than that, it was all Saints.
Yeah, it was, and I think nice to see Ollie Slightholme and George Hendy on the wings. The Titan Flash getting a hat trick, which is always good to see.
Yeah,
Slightholme obviously at fault for the one Bulls try, but other than that, a good performance. Got a couple of tries. George Furbank in his swan song now for Northampton for the rest of the season.
Unconfirmed at this point.
Unconfirmed.
At point of recording.
Unconfirmed. But I'll tell you what I did think was possibly Henry Pollock's best performance since his return.
It's like every time we say something about a player not necessarily being at their best, they just
hang
answer
on.
us.
Oh, yeah. On that note, we need to go back and criticise some Gloucester players again because I need to get the same bounce.
Sorry, Rory, I can't, because most of the players we can criticise this week won't be playing in the Prem because most of them are your teenagers who will be doing their homework.
Such a good point. That's such a good point. What a shame.
Yeah, but Henry Pollock definitely had his best game of the season for me. Absolute menacing best. Both sides of the ball, in defence, in attack, showed how quick he was. I'm pretty sure he tripped himself over. Speaking of trips, how funny was it when the Bulls prop threw his toys at the pram, seeing that he tripped him over, where clearly on the replay he tripped himself over by his big old size 14 boots clipping the back of his own foot, thinking it was a Yogan, deciding to kick him to get a yellow card. Head gone. I thought that was very funny how emotive he got when on the replay he clearly tripped himself over.
Yeah, Shekwini.
Yeah.
Shekwini.
Yeah.
Not his finest moment, I suspect he'll ever have in his career. Was quite funny a bit later on when Saints, I think, went sort of 40 or 50 points up, and they cut to him on the bench looking
glum.
Cheapish, forlorn,
a little bit glum. There's not too much to draw from this game. It was a comfortable victory for Saints. Again, in the first half, I thought, similar to the week before, a bit disjointed. Saints weren't necessarily...
Yeah, you seem to be taking a little time to warm up at the moment, but once you get into your stride, pretty good.
Yeah, but all I'm thinking about, and it's making me all nice and warm and fuzzy, you throw Tommy Freeman into that back line now. Now we've got a lot of our best players back. They're gonna be fizzing because it's a tasty prospect. You put Freeman on the end of some of these moves, he gonna be scoring some tries, Rory. I'm telling you that. I agree. Not that I want to drop Slightholm or Hendy, but Freeman in that back line, I think maybe that might be the missing piece to why some of these things aren't landing, because maybe he's just a yard ahead of everyone.
No, honestly, I'm looking at that squad, and I think Freeman and I know Curtis Langdon's out for.
No, he's back training. He's back training.
Oh, he's back training again. Okay,
yeah.
I think you add those two pieces back into that. It's Bellew as well on the bench.
Yeah. Also, another self-indulgent question for you, Rory, from my Saints brain. Where is Alex Coles currently in terms of best locks in the UK right now? In
the UK? Well, that's a tough one to answer because in terms of the type of lock he is, and by that I mean rangy, kind of in the loose, almost sort of hybrid style locks. I think he's probably on a par with Ollie Chesham. Those two are probably out on their own for that type of lock. But you've got to then think, you've got Maro Toje, Joe McCarthy. You could probably argue James Ryan. There's always a few question marks about his form. Cummins, up in Scotland, who I think is a really underrated but very good player. Welsh will argue Daft Jenkins, although I don't think he's as good as Alex Coles. But he's probably certainly top 10. If
the Lions tour was being announced tomorrow, would Alex Coles make your Lions squad?
No, and the only reason why is I think you're forgetting how many good Irish locks there are.
I think you're forgetting how good Alex Coles is.
Okay, well, let me just Joe McCarthy, James Ryan, Tadhg Burnson. I think Alex Coles is comparable with some of those, but he's certainly not ahead of all of them. You've still got Maro Toje, you've still got Ollie Chesham, you've still got Cummins. I don't think Coles is quite there yet, but that's not to say he's not playing fantastically well at the moment. And in terms of form, he's probably up there with anyone.
That's what the question was, Rory. And I notice he is in your fantasy team, so maybe
he's got me lots of...
Maybe you do rate him in your top two. That's all I'll say. But yeah, Saints 1, 50, Bulls 5. Let's not dwell too much more on that game because it was quite easy. And let's not dwell too much on the next game because once again, it was another rout for a Prem team. Bristol Bears putting Poe to the sword massively, 61-12, Rory. It was again another... I think the only glimmer for the French side was Fabien Roberet, another beep beep maybe.
Yeah.
He looks handy, but Bears were just rampant.
Yeah, this was just not a very great watch, was it? I watched this after I just got back from the weekend in Ireland. So I thought, it'd be nice just to round off the weekend with a. Okay, this was one of those sort of screeners.
A nice little rugby chaser for your rugby weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Another training run. I mean, nice to see Ellis Genge on the rampage, scoring quite early on. As soon as he got that, I realised, I've got Ellis Genge in my fantasy team. I was like, it's always nice to get a prop on the score sheet. But just not much to shout about with this one. I think the Grondona brothers are really coming into their own.
Yeah, the younger one looked particularly good, I thought.
Particularly, yeah. Nice to see Ivanishvili continue to get some game time. I think he's coming on. The problem is, it's just not that entertaining to watch training runs constantly. I think my biggest source of entertainment in this one was knowing that you'd picked Lewis Rees-Zammit and he dropped out just before the start of the game for Elizalde.
Not just picked him, he was my captain, Rory.
Yeah, I saw that. So that was the only sort of real enjoyment I got out of this one, other than Ellis Genge.
Put a real dark shadow over it for me.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just there's some nice moments, right? There's some nice bits of skill, and there's it's nice. It's nice to watch end-to-end tries at times.
Yeah.
But once you sort of factor in the lack of competition in it, you just go.
When you remind yourself what competition you're watching, it's like, oh, this isn't what it's supposed to be. Like,
it's just not. It's not what you sign up for. It's certainly not what I paid Premier Sports for.
Yeah. I want to tune into these games and each game be a contest, and that is not what we're getting at the moment at all. And I do not blame anyone for not purchasing Premier Sports at this point in time, because the product is not worth the purchase at the moment anyway. But we're suckers, Rory, and we get sucked into paying for this stuff because we can't help ourselves. We're addicted to rugby.
I know. I wish I could.
I wish I could just cut it off, but I can't. It'd also make this podcast really boring if I didn't watch any rugby.
Yeah.
So we've covered theoretical rugby podcasts. Hey, there's something there. Maybe we've got a spin-off. So we haven't covered the Cast game, the Bordeaux game, or the Stormers game.
There's a reason for that, David. They have all been other training runs for teams we don't watch on a regular basis.
So I think the only two things that I will say about those games in general. One, Fletcher Anderson for the Scarlets. He's a decent player. He stood up for Scarlets against Bordeaux, who had a training run. And Sasha Feinberg Ngomazulu.
A real deal.
There's a reason why Rugby Pass have named him their new number one rugby player in the world this year, surpassing Anton Dupont.
Mr. Dupont. Yeah.
He's handy. He
certainly
good.
is.
He's good. Fine. We'll accept it. You've got a real deal there. South Africa.
All right, South Africa, we get it.
You've got another great player. Good one.
Question for you though, David. I guess more widely. I say, La Rochelle obviously sent the second team over. Scarlets are struggling at the moment. We're always going to struggle against Bordeaux, regardless. And Edinburgh, we're always going to struggle to back up the last week's performance against Cast. So, taking those results as read and looking at the tables. So, Glasgow, maximum points off the first two games. With, I think, Saracens
are second. So, you've got Saracens to play, and they'll have Clermont to play.
Saracens and Clermont to play. So, Clermont, we would assume, are now going to throw in the towel at this point because they're 0 points from the first two games.
Yep.
So, Glasgow against Saracens, which I think is in Saracens.
Yeah, I think so.
That's going to be the big decider for those two, with obviously the knowledge that Saracens have also got to play Toulouse.
Yeah.
So Saracens need to beat Glasgow to get them to probably to make the top two and probably have to go their way.
If only they'd went and beat the Sharks away from home, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So that pool looks tight because Toulouse having lost and with Glasgow having to play Saracens still, that one's still very much up in the air.
There's three teams that could top that table at this point.
Pool 2, all teams on one victory and one loss.
Yeah.
So Edinburgh have got Gloucester at home, so they'll fancy the chance of that one, but I think Gloucester may also fancy their chances.
So they might actually send their best team.
They won away in Edinburgh last year in the Challenge Cup, so they may well fancy that one. And then they've got Toulon at home. Again, probably depending on the Edinburgh result, will depend on what they do in that one.
Yeah.
I would say of those teams, all of them will fancy their chances of getting through to the next round.
Yeah.
Depending on probably the next round of games.
Yeah.
That looks like the most unpredictable.
That's definitely the most interesting pool to watch, I'd say. in terms of next steps and next stage, because there's something in it for each team there at this stage.
Yeah. Pool 3 looks like Leinster and Stormers are probably going to top this one. Tigers maybe the most unfortunate to not get a point yet, but at this point probably going to not be that fussed about the rest of the competition.
I'd be surprised if they did, yeah.
Quins might fancy their chances. I'm not sure. Are Quins away at Stormers or home against Stormers?
Well, I'm not sure. Bear with, listener.
That could be the deciding fixture at this point.
They are home to Stormers.
Okay, so that makes that table interesting, because if Quins win at home against Stormers, and then presumably they'll be away at La Rochelle.
Yes, yeah. So that could be interesting.
That one becomes really interesting. But then Pool 4, 3 teams having won their first 2 games.
Yeah, Pool 4 is an interesting one. I do feel for the Bulls. Like, here's another concept with this format, Rory. The Bulls, in their first 2 fixtures of the group stage, had to play the champions and the runners-up as their first 2 fixtures in the group stage of this competition.
I will grant you that's not ideal from their perspective.
But, like, is there any other competition where that would happen?
No, but, you know, as we've discussed, the format of this competition.
Yeah. So let's face it. So Poe are probably going to throw the towel in, so they're not going to be part of it. So they've played Northampton and Bristol already. It all hinges on Bristol versus Bulls in terms of the top 3, and it all hinges on Saints versus Bordeaux, which is unfortunately in Bordeaux, so tough one for Northampton to win. Like, I am the most optimistic of optimistic Saints fans. I know going to Bordeaux and winning there is by no means an easy thing to do. But we did beat Leinster in Ireland. So
I think that could be one of the games of the season.
Yeah.
Because you'll have all the narrative is in that game, right? Yeah. Basically, in this whole pool stage, the only bit of narrative is Northampton away at Bordeaux.
Yeah, the replay of the final. Yeah. Which is the only thing that people will be paying for their Premier Sports subscription to watch. Because I think the way the table lands then also hinges on Bristol versus Bulls. Because I think they've got to go to Bulls, so they are.
Yeah, so they go to Bulls on the Saturday of that weekend.
Yeah. So,
but I don't think Bristol will be able to take a second team there, because they don't have much of a squad to do that.
No, so they'll have to take a strong squad. But Bulls at home is a different story to Bulls away. We all know that. It's just whether Bulls are interested in putting out their strongest team or not. So a lot hinges on that. And then, so we know 3 of the 4 teams that are going to qualify from that group already. Just the order, we don't know yet.
I mean, I'm trying desperately to think of a way to make this a more interesting competition, but it's just at the moment.
Sorry, Rory, but some things are not possible.
No, sorry, listener. I can't wait to make this entertaining for you. No. We've wasted your evening.
Yeah, sorry, guys. It's another Champions Cup megapod where we've just bored you to sleep again. But thank you for sticking for us for this long. At least next week we'll be back to normality. We'll be talking Prem Rugby. So if anyone has tuned in just for Champions Cup Rugby, we will be predominantly focused on Prem Rugby next week and things along those lines. So please do still tune in. But if you are expecting us to talk URC or top 14, unfortunately that is not our bag when it comes to the run-of-the-mill stuff. We'll be back to the Prem. But for now, Rory, I think that is the pod for this week done. Do you have any final words for the listener?
Drink Beamish. It's marginally better than Guinness.
And on that note, listener, we will bring the episode to a close. Hope you've enjoyed listening. Remember to subscribe, like, follow, rate, message us. We're here for it. We'll be back next week with some more Armob fun. Ta-ra.
Ta-da.